At highway speeds, the average text takes your eyes off the road for about 5 seconds. That's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop texts, stopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a successful motivational speaker and trusted life coach, Nancy knows how you can live the life you want regardless of the challenges you face. Although she's legally blind, Nancy's mission is to inspire others to overcome obstacles and live life full out. Call in at 800-333-0001 to ask Nancy for advice on topics such as relationships, finances, business, health, and more. Just call 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Living Full Out Show. I'm so excited to be here with all of you. And here we are. It's a new year. It's time to really embrace, what's possible. But as much as we want all the great things in the world, we want to win the lottery, we want to get that great job, we want to find that significant other, we want all these desires for our life, we know that the hurdles are going to come. We know that with every laugh, there's going to be a pain. And the thing is how do you manage that stress? How do you get through the fire? How do you get through the tough nights, the lonely nights, the days that are just overabundance of things to do? Well, it's all about stress management. It's all about finding a way to find flow and flexibility and ease in your life. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We are going to be taking your calls. The number again is 800-333-0001, 800-333-0001. And we also will be having a very special guest, lashanda-holmes, coming up in our next segment. And her story is not only inspiring, but truly just makes me want to go out there and do even more bigger things than I'm doing today. And that's what we want to think about in life. We want to think about what's next. There's going to be times in our life where we try something and it doesn't work out, or it doesn't work out exactly the way we planned. And that's okay. And when that happens, a lot of times we might feel bad about ourselves. We might, talk negatively to ourselves. And I want you to think about not doing that. New year, new you, right? We want to find a way to embrace the best version of ourselves that we can be. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we're great at everything. We've all heard the saying, jack of all trades, master of none. That is absolutely the case. Find what makes you special. Find what your natural gifts and talents are and run with those. And then as those stressful days come, calling into shows like this will always help to guide you and give you that empowerment. And then just the support of family and friends and mentors around you. We're actually going to be going to the phone lines now, taking our first caller. Welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for calling. What's going on today?
I just started college. I was admitted to UST in the spring. And I'm just having issues with, eating healthy and, just maintaining, I don't know what I'm going to do to maintain my weight and make sure, I don't gain anything. So if you have any tips on that, because I also had my wallet stolen, so I can only eat at the food, at the dining halls, so.
Well, I remember that freshman 10. I think I did freshman 20, personally. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the mac and cheese, and so that was a problem for me. But, here's the thing. Over your life, in high school, I'm sure you went through times where you needed to or wanted to lose weight, keep your weight in check. We always feel that way around the holidays, right, or before summertime. Yeah. So in the past, what has worked for you?
My issue is in the past throughout high school, I just consistently gained weight and always had an issue with eating and everything. So
okay, so nothing's worked for you.
I would cook for myself when I lived in an apartment last semester, but I don't have that option anymore.
Okay,
so I'm worried.
Okay, well, don't get worried. Here's the thing, I want to urge you to the dining hall that you're eating at. I want you to contact somebody at the dining hall, and I want you to ask them if they have any healthier options or if there's any ways to get healthier options. A lot of times in life, we settle for what we think we have to, like, oh, this is all I have. I guess I better choose. But the thing is it's okay to ask. It's okay to call them and say, listen, I have dietary needs, or I am trying to stay with a certain nutrition plan. And, is there anything alternatively that I can ask for in advance? Or are there certain foods that I might not know about that I can ask for that would be a more healthier option rather than just settling for what's there?
Okay.
So for example,
yeah.
I mean, always ask. They could say nope. They could say we have no options. And, if that's the case, well, then we go to
If there's
plan
anything,
B.
just like ask what the foods regularly are, maybe, and like find out the nutrition for that and see what, even if I can't get anything new, what's available and what's like the healthiest of what they do have.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And just finding out, what are your options, and yes, I'm sorry that your wallet got stolen. I mean, I've had that happen to me too, and it's violating, and it feels weird, and now you don't have your money, but this is also just a period of time, right? But keep in mind, when you go to places like even McDonald's or Subway or anywhere, always ask for what are healthier options. The temptation may be to get French fries, but you know what? A salad with a couple croutons is a better option, right? Still get a little bit of that bread fix, but you're not going with the French fries and the ranch. Think about ways to be healthier. If you get pizza and eat pizza, maybe eat just the part that has the meat and the sauce, and just that first part of the pizza. Skip the crust, skip the over bready part. So just think about things that you can do. Also on the workout front, it's so easy and tempting to want to take like a ramp or want to take an elevator, but take the stairs. Walk extra out of your way. Because the thing is, not too long ago, we had a gentleman on our show who is an artist, and he weighed about 400 pounds, and he lost 250 pounds by just walking. Yeah. And you know what? He was a starving artist, and you know what he did? He went to the 99-cent store. And at the 99-cent store is where he bought cans of tuna for 99 cents or less. He got his produce. So there are cheaper ways to stay in shape. Okay?
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, keep us posted. I can't wait to hear how this new fabulous you unfolds into the year.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a great day. You too. Bye-bye. What a stress, right? Trying to figure out how to stay healthy, how to work out, how to evolve and be that best version of ourselves. I mean, that is an ongoing struggle for all of us. We're going to go back to the phone lines again now. Welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hi. So I was just really, I'm just really stressed about like finals in 2 weeks. And I was just wondering how I could cope with that.
Well, so what year in school are you?
I'm in high school.
Oh, you're in high school. Okay.
Yeah.
So how to cope with finals? The thing is what brings you happiness? What relaxes you?
I don't know, listening to music sometimes, just sitting in bed and drinking some tea, or just taking a shower, stuff like that.
Okay. So what you want to do is you want to hold near and dear those things that bring you joy. I'm the same way. When I am having a stressful week, I will find a song that empowers me. A lot of times for me, that's a Carrie Underwood song, or maybe a Whitney Houston song or something like that. Yeah. And then also think about the fact that working out will always help give you a stress relief also. I know when we think about working out, it's like a dread, dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
None of us really want to do it, but then after you do it, you feel really good. So even if it means that you get on the floor and you do a couple push-ups, I'm telling you, 5 push-ups, it changes the energy in your body. I kid you not. Okay. Anybody who's listening who has finals or anything, if you're feeling tired or sluggish, I want you to just get up and do like 10 jumping jacks. And it just switches the energy in your body. The other thing, too, I want to share with you is, some friends and family and classmates are going to be distractions. When you call them, you're going to be off and running away from your classwork. You don't want to call those people. But you might want to call somebody uplifting in your life. and just say, listen, I only have 3 minutes, but can you please tell me something that would just switch the energy in my mind? Tell me a joke, tell me anything. I got 3 minutes, go. I'm telling you, I will get friends that will call me and say, Nancy, I just need like 2 minutes of your time. Download something motivational at me. And then in that 2 minutes, again, it just switches the energy in your mind, in your body, in your heart. So try doing those things as you go into your finals.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Have a good day.
So you too. Thank you for calling in.
Thanks,
so here we
bye.
are. Bye-bye. Everybody is kind of wanting and desiring that shift, that change in their body, in their mind, in their heart. They're looking for peace. They're looking for clarity. They're looking for being that better version of themselves. So how do you do that? You just re-engage, never give up. How you best manage stress is to be your best advocate. If you know that something's going to be a distraction, if you know that something's not healthy for you, then run the other direction. Okay, literally. We have more control than we give ourselves credit for sometimes. You know, let's just think about food choices, right? We have the control to put in our mouth what we want to. We also have the control to put something that maybe is a little naughty in our mouth, but then we have the control to go work out for a half an hour or an hour to kind of balance that out. Same goes for working out. Same goes for picking the right relationships. You know, being able to harness your life, being able to grab hold of it and know that the distractions, the things that people may say to you, you know, the mistakes that might be made, those are just temporary problems. Those are just temporary moments. And then as we segue into the show here, I really want to make sure that everybody focuses on sleep as well. I am telling you, sleep is really valuable. It's valuable to your mind in making sure that you can best handle stressful situations. It also helps you in losing weight. We actually process and lose weight overnight in our sleep. It helps you with working out. It helps you with being focused and having more clarity in relationships. So do focus on that as well. After this next break, we're going to be coming back with Lashanda-Holmes, our inspirational guest, and she is amazing. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Isn't this dinner party wonderful? Jeanette and Bill did so much planning, and the house looks great.
Well, you know, it was almost canceled. Did you hear that Bill was really sick with the flu 2 weeks ago?
No, I had no idea. I've been so busy at work. But my coworker's toddler was in the hospital with flu, too. Is Bill okay?
It was pretty serious and aggravated his asthma. Bill got sick quickly with a high fever. Fortunately, Jeanette got him to the doctor right away. The doctor said it was flu and prescribed a medication that helped him get back on his feet.
I didn't know flu was so serious until I heard Bill say he felt like he'd been hit by a truck. He missed a big meeting at work.
Well, thank goodness Jeanette had gotten her flu shot. Because, you know, she's expecting.
What? Oh, man.
I guess that was another thing you guys didn't know either.
A message from the Department of Health and Human Services.
Hi, I can't come to the phone right now because I'm abusing my children. Not just verbally, but physically. I'll get back to you.
If only child abuse was this easy to recognize. If you even suspect abuse, call Child Help at 1-800-4A-CHILD or visit childhelp.org. We've helped millions of people help millions of children. All calls are anonymous and confidential, so call 1-800-4A-CHILD or visit childhelp.org. Child Help. Trust your instincts. Brought to you by Child Help and the Ad Council.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Today, you hit the snooze bar. You checked your email. You checked your fantasy football team. You rejected an insulting trade offer. You ate your lunch. You did all the things that one normally does the day before a 175-mile-per-hour hurricane blows through your city, leaving it in a state of ruin. You never know when the day before is the day before. Prepare for tomorrow at ready.gov/today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. A professional motivational speaker, Nancy can help you overcome obstacles and start living full out. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Living Full Out Show. I am Nancy Solari, and really, I'm so excited that we have this time together because I get so much out of your calls. I get so much out of our inspirational guests in terms of feeling empowered myself, and I only want and desire for you to feel the same way. And that's why we focus really on finding the best guests, people that have been through tough times and have found ways to survive, ways to empower themselves, motivate themselves to go on and do great things. And our guest today, Lashanda-Holmes, is a perfect representation of that. Yes, she has amazing accolades. I mean, she's the first African-American helicopter pilot in the Coast Guard. But when you hear her story, I think you'll find that the beauty of her is who she is inside, how she overcame those struggles from her past and went on to claim her life, to really drive it in the direction that she wanted it to be. So I'd very much like to welcome Lashanda-Holmes. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And Lashanda, I just got to tell you, not only are you fantastic in terms of your story and all that you've done, but one of my teammates today also said just how beautiful you are. So outside and inside, I am telling you people, she's a powerhouse, this one.
Oh my goodness. Thank you.
Of course. So we're going to just dive on in. I want to kind of catch our listeners up with your story. Now, your story really begins when you were 2 years old and the loss of your mother. Can you share with us a little bit about that and how and why that was such a pivotal point for you in your life?
Yeah, I've had a few pivotal life-changing experiences, but like you said, Nancy, I really think it kind of started there, even though I was 2 years old and I really kind of didn't understand what was going on around me. But my mother committed suicide when I was 2, and so for many years into my almost preteen, teenage years, I grew up feeling a huge void that was never filled. Even though I was adopted, I still had this void. I felt guilty for some reason. I felt like maybe I had done something early on to make my mother not want to be a part of my life, or maybe I stressed her out, or I was too overwhelming, or maybe I cried too much, and so I kind of battled with those feelings for a very long time, and I think it kind of planted a lot of insecurities and doubt in myself. So a very huge crucible moment in my life early on, like you said.
Yeah, and you know, the thing is we so much is defined of who we are when we're younger. You know, we look to our parents, we look to our identity. Who are we, and you know, who do we want to be? Now, thankfully, though, you were taken in and adopted by your mom's sister, your aunt, and you know that was a wonderful mentor in your own life, because she actually mirrored similarities to who you are today.
Absolutely. My aunt who adopted me, who I've always called my mother, my mom, is a phenomenal woman. And I'm not perfect. She's not perfect. And I think she'd say that herself. But she has absolutely been a mentor and inspiration in my life. She was the first person in my family to go to college, the first one to join the military. I have a very large family. My grandmother had 13 or so kids, and so for her to be the first to do those things was really important. And I remember looking up to her as a, 3, 4, 5-year-old and just wishing I could be that beautiful and that graceful and that ladylike, and she's articulate and smart and strong. and graceful and all these things that I really wanted to be. She always smelled so good, and I remember her, rolling her hair up at night and filing her nails and all those very feminine, beautiful things. But I also remember her coming home from work in fatigues and boots from a very long day and, getting deployed over to Desert Storm and things like that. So I got to see a lot of different dimensions of her early on. I saw her go to grad school. Her and I were she wasn't married on and off, and men would come in and out of our lives. But for a large portion of my youth, it was just her and I. And so I really had that, behind the scenes kind of look into the different levels of her, not even really understanding how much of an impact that would have on me until I kind of came into my own as an adult.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because, again, in those teenage years, you're again trying to identify with who you are, and one of the things I think is so interesting about your story is, so here you were, your mom and you kind of, together, going through life together, and in those, of course, those men were in and out of her life, but there was one man that you were longing to meet in your life, and you finally met him, which was your dad. But even that has its own interesting story with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So my mom, she was married a few times, and I had seen her go. We lived in England. We were stationed in England for a few years, and I watched her go through domestic abuse for years, and I've seen men mistreat her in divorces and miscarriages and just a lot of traumatic events for her. And so with men coming kind of in and out of my life and not really the best example of real men, I always wanted to know who my real father was, who was never present up until this point. After my mom passed when I was 2, there was nothing there. So my mother got deployed, and I believe it was Desert Storm at this time, and my great-grandmother came down to South Carolina to watch me. She came down from Plainfield, New Jersey, where my father was living, and we were talking, and she said, I think I know your dad. I know he hasn't been there, but if you want to meet him, if you're interested in talking to him, then I can find the number. And so my mother and I kind of talked about it, and I was super excited because he had never been there, and not having my biological mother either, I just really had a deep desire to have, my father in my life. And so eventually I got the contact information from my dad, and I called him on the phone one day. I think I was about 8, and I was so nervous. And, I was like, hi, this is Lashanda. And he completely is like, stop playing on my phone, and who put you up to this? And, it didn't really start up the way that I thought. But I gave him more details. I said, well, Bridget's my mom, and she passed, and I've been living here, and Cynthia took, adopted me, and started explaining it to him so that he believed me. So we started talking over the phone and started building a relationship there. And eventually, some days when I was at gymnastics practice or not home and he would call the house, my mom would pick up. And so eventually they kind of started talking on the phone together and decided down the road to get married, which was was awkward phase for me. I didn't understand it. My mom even had a conversation with me before they got married and asked me how I felt about it. Was I comfortable with it? And from everything I can remember, I said, I'm really happy to have my father in my life. This is great, but you're beautiful. You're fantastic. This is my mom's, guy, and he's my biological dad, and you're my aunt, and this is weird. And, trying to articulate that the best that I could at, 8 or 9 years old. And so eventually they got married when I was 11. So
I mean the feelings of loss and the confusion of that and everything, but yet happiness along the way, that had to have taken a lot in terms of who you became today. You became more mature early on probably than most 11-year-olds, most 5-year-olds, just because of your path. Now, the thing is in your story, here you are, you got your biological dad and you have your mom and one might think, okay, well, now the happy family is together, and I'm sure it was, but you even confided with me that, there were rocky times, and you eventually had to go into foster care.
Yeah, so it started off well, at least in my eyes. I looked at my dad as kind of the fun dad, and he listened to hip-hop, and he just seemed really cool and felt like friends. And still, I mean, it's all around kind of confusing because this is my biological father, but he's never been here, and I'm coming into my preteen, teenage years, and now he's here, and he's like kind of a fun dad. And my dad drank a lot, and he was abusive in a lot of ways. And so the Department of Children and Family Services eventually had to come and take my brother and I from the house. And there was just a lot going on at home that shouldn't have been going on. And a lot of that, I believe, is because of some of the alcohol abuse that was going on. And, it turned out to be much more disastrous than I ever thought. And it's sad. I mean, obviously, it's sad. But when you love your parents so much, and especially when one's been absent so long, and you put them on this pedestal, and, these are the folks that are supposed to love you and protect you, not put their hands on you, never harm you, never say, evil, mean, hurtful things to you, and that's what it became. And but also going back to losing my mother, or my biological mother, early on, seeing my adoptive mother go through domestic abuse and miscarriages and taking the same men back that would, abuse her, I think kind of helped me. This probably isn't even a good thing. I don't know if it's good or bad, but, really strengthened me a lot, kind of forced me to have a little bit harder shell, taught me how to compartmentalize things, because I never really spoke to anyone at school or around me about things that were going on at home or with my mother, and I would just kind of tuck that in my back pocket and hope that maybe it would never surface again, or kind of try to ignore it for the meantime. And in some ways, that's been very good for me.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's not like the healthiest thing to do, but in a lot of ways, I think it's helped me cope and helped me not really kind of get lost in this deep depression, in this deep rut of things going on.
Well, it definitely probably helped to manage the stress of what was going on in your life during that time. We're going to be going to a commercial break here, and I want everybody to understand that stick with us, because her story really will be picking up speed here shortly, because after all that transition in your youth, and when you started to really find yourself when you were in one of your foster homes, when you were, at a certain school. And so we're going to go into that in the next segment of just how you finally decided, you know what, I'm taking my life back. I'm going to steer it in a new direction where I want to go. So we'll be coming right back and sharing more of LaShonda's story. And again, this is the Living Full Out Show. I'm Nancy Solari. We'll be back.
Hi, professional skateboarder Tony Hawk here with Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck to remind you to get moving every day.
Because when you get moving an hour a day,
you'll have the energy to skate through anything.
Nice play on words, Doc.
That's how I roll, Bugs. So whether you like to work the half pipe,
now that's catching air,
kick the soccer ball around, or dance in your room,
just move it your way.
For an hour a day.
The way you like to move, as long as you're moving.
Carve out some time every day and get active. Because it's time to do a 180 on what you think exercise is.
Because it can be whatever you want it to be. So be a player.
Be a player.
Get up and play an hour a day, Doc. Check out how to be a player at letsmove.gov.
Head online to get tips on great ways to get moving every day.
At www.letsmove.gov. Let's hear that one more time, Doc. That's www.letsmove.gov. A message from the Ad Council and HHS.
I want to change some things. I want the moms where I live to have childcare they can trust.
I want to make sure my little brother and his friends have a safe place to play.
I want to help more kids graduate from high school.
Help more hardworking families learn how to budget and save.
I want more of my neighbors to have access to health care.
Want to make a difference? There are so many ways you can. Help create opportunities for everyone in your community.
I want to change what I see around here.
United Way is creating real, lasting change where you live by focusing on the building blocks of a better life. education, income, and health.
I mean, I just want to see more smiles on my sidewalks.
Reach out a hand to one and influence the condition of all. Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. For more, visit United Way at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a trusted life coach, Nancy will help you overcome setbacks and embrace all life has to offer. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Welcome back to the Living Full Out show. We are continuing our interview with Lashanda-Holmes. She was the first African-American helicopter pilot in the Coast Guard. But how did she get there? She's sharing with us her story, and I want to welcome you back.
Great to be back, Nancy.
Yeah. You know, there's so much still to come, so I'm going to kind of speed along here a little bit because, you know, when you were in the foster system after, you know, you left your mom and your dad and that environment, when you were at one of the, it was more like was it like a school, or was it the place where you had that kind of epic night?
Yeah, it was, I don't know how familiar you are with adoption in the foster care system, but for teenagers, it's very hard to find placement. A lot of people are looking for the younger youth, and so my brother and I kind of bounced around from different houses and trailer parks, and eventually the only space they could find for us was in a group home, which is meant for kids with behavior problems, and it felt more like a prison than anything. We had alarms on the doors, and if you came out after 8 or 8:30, they'd go off at night, and a lot of turmoil going on in there. But yes, so my brother, he got in trouble in school, and they kind of threatened to send him to like a boys' home, and he ended up running away. And then the young lady that I shared a room with got in trouble, and they sent her away. So I was in a room to myself, and it was really the first time that I really, it resonated with me kind of what was going on, because we were always moving around so much, and I was trying to be strong for my brother and things like that, and save face at school. And so it was the first time of real isolation where I could kind of confront my feelings, and I was so depressed and angry and mad at God. And, you know, I was junior class president that year, in high school, and I had good grades, and I knew I was a good kid, and I could not understand, my God, isn't me losing my mother, you know, enough? Isn't, you know, all these things that I've seen and endured over the years, isn't that enough? Why are you allowing this to happen? And I was so depressed, and I'd cry every night, and this went on for almost 2 weeks or so, and one night I was sitting in the same spot, Indian style, crying, talking to God like I always do, telling him how unfair this was, and then I kind of stopped and started, like, kind of chuckled to myself. I'm like, Lashanda, what are you doing? You've been sitting in the same space for weeks, crying about the same thing. Nobody hears you. I don't even know if anyone cares. It's just you here. So, I mean, nothing's going to change unless you do something else. And it's like a light bulb kind of went off in my mind at that time. So I got up and clean myself up, because I was like really in like one of those good cries where you know, snotty nose, you can't breathe, like my face hurt, like, you know, so clean myself up, and I was kind of pacing in my room a little bit back and forth, thinking, you know, what are we going to do next? What's the plan? You got to make a master plan. And I was angry because I knew that you know, there are people out there that wish, you know, that thought they threw me to the wolves, and I would just that would be the end of me. And that same anger, I kind of turned into fuel to, in my mind, I'm like, you know, I'm going to show people how great of a kid that I am, and that I'm going to be something, and that you did not leave me for dead, because I'm going to do something with it. And so I started visualizing myself about 20 or 30 years out and trying to see, you know, okay, what does Lashanda look like? What does that feel like? And I don't know, my imagination is so strong. I could almost feel the clothes. Like, I pictured myself in a suit, and I had a briefcase, and I could see the house that I'd be in and the car that I would drive. And that excited me, because I never even really, you know, had that kind of mindset before. And so I said, okay, if you want all these nice things, what does that take? You probably need You need a good job. Okay, well, what does it take to get a good job? You probably need an education. You probably need good grades. You probably have to go to college and get accepted, and you probably should study for your SATs and ACTs, and you probably need a job, too, to help with, tuition and cost of school, so you need a job. And so I kind of backed myself all the way up to junior year in high school, and I had a pencil and paper, and I started writing all these things down and had these offshoots and branches of things that I needed to do within, the next week or 2 weeks. And so I kind of started working my plan from there, and started studying for my
I just have to say, before we go on further, I just have to say, I want everyone to really get that planning she did when she was in high school, but you can always do that planning. I think that is so fantastic and so says so much about who you are, but we can all channel that energy, take bad and put it into good. And, I want to kind of take our listeners a little further down the line to your story, because you did go on to college and you were successful and you were doing what you had planned. You were working your plan. However, share with us. Exactly. But share with us that day that you met that gentleman who also worked for the military at that expo, because this is really where you introduced yourself to the options of the military where you are today. And I want everyone to get this part of the story, because sometimes the best things that happen in our lives happen unexpectedly.
Absolutely.
You can share that with us.
And I never had any intentions at all of joining the military. Part of that, one, because I was going to Spelman College, is almost $30,000 a year to go there, and people always told me military was a last resort. And two, I had so much resentment built up against my mother that I didn't want to be anything close to what she was. And so my first 2 years at Spelman, I was a biochem major. I wanted to be an anesthesiologist. I was also a Bonner Scholar. So we had a career fair one day, and I was set up at the Bonner Scholar booth, which is a community service-oriented scholarship. And I talked to young women about community service and why it was so important, different initiatives that we had going on. And across from me was a Coast Guard recruiter, and I had never even heard of the Coast Guard. I didn't know that they were part of the military. I thought they were just a volunteer, like National Guard or something. And all day I saw the recruiter trying to, get the attention and grab these young women to tell them about the Coast Guard, and no one gave him any love. And I really felt bad for the poor guy. And so at the end of the day, before we packed up, I walked over to say, hey, I just want to tell you thank you for your service to our country. Thank you for coming out to my school. I'm sorry you're not getting a better response. And he said, well, since you're here, can I at least just tell you about the Coast Guard? Sure, go ahead, give me your spill. He starts to tell me about the Coast Guard, all their missions, how it's a life-saving service, and then goes on to offer me, we talk a little bit about my grades, and offers me a full scholarship through a program called C-SPI, which still exists today. It stands for College Student Pre-Commissioning Initiative. But all the missions, search and rescue, drug and migrant interdiction, homeland security, all-encompassing missions, all those things really seemed like they were in direct alignment with what I kind of wanted to do in helping people and giving back. And so pretty much I signed up that day. I thought he was pulling my leg at first. I'm like, no, you're just giving me the recruiter talk. You'll do anything to get me in. Is there anyone at Spelman that's part of this program? He's like, yeah. And I was like, well, call one of them right now. And he pulled his phone out. He called two young women, and everything he said, they told me the exact same thing. And so, that was almost 11 years ago. Truly
meant to be, unexpected, and there you were. So I'm just curious, though, because we have just a little bit of time left in our interview here. How do you then go from that day, that pivotal moment in your life, to becoming the first African-American helicopter in the Coast Guard? We have just a little bit of time, but that's such a jump.
I know. I'll try to be fast because I never even considered flying at all. I graduated from Spelman, and I had a little bit of a wait before going to officer candidate school and volunteered to get underway on one of our Coast Guard cutters. And I ran into an officer on the ship, and he stopped me and said, hey, do you know what you want to do once you become an officer? And I said, heck yeah, I want to be a ship driver. This is the coolest thing I've ever done. We just left Japan. It's awesome. And he said, well, have you ever thought about aviation? Because right now we only have one black female pilot in the Coast Guard, which completely floored me, especially coming from Spelman College. And so I kind of stalked her that night and looked her up, sent her an email, and said, hey, I heard you were the first ever, female in the Coast Guard flying. That's crazy. I'd love to meet you. And so she invited me out to Clearwater, Florida, about a month before I went to officer candidate school. And I flew out there. She flies C-130s. She took me up on a C-130 flight. Her husband flew helicopters. He took me on a flight, and I went on a couple different flights. And I knew just from seeing her, another Black woman. You know, she was nice. She was normal. She's smart.
Yeah.
She's from Jamaica. She took me dancing, and her parents cooked me a bunch of Jamaican food. It was so welcoming, and so I knew that I could at least give it a shot. And so when I went to officer candidate school, I made it known that I wanted to pursue aviation and, you know, competed for it and got picked up to go to flight school directly out of officer candidate school. Went down to Pensacola, Florida, learned how to fly airplanes first, aerobatics, and got my instrument ratings and commercial license, and then went over to the helicopter side and did the same thing over there, and you know, graduated as the first on the helicopter side in the Coast Guard in 2010, and the rest has just been history. It's been such an amazing ride, and God's been so good, and it's just exciting. And then even now, you know, being a White House fellow, decided to apply for the fellowship, and this is absolutely one of the best decisions I could ever make in my entire life. So yeah, it's just been amazing.
Well, I'm just curious, you know, we've all been a part of your journey today through the interview. You've had a lot of struggles, tough times growing up, and I'm sure being where you are today was not a walk in the park. You had to compete, you had to fight for it. But when you look back on your life and when you consider the listeners today who are just wanting something more for their own lives, what advice do you have for them?
You got to just go out and do it. I think one of the things that people do, they start thinking negatively or start doubting themselves before they've even done anything, or they talk themselves out of something before they've even stepped out to do it. I honestly, and this took a while, but I honestly believe that I could be anything in the world. I'm thinking about applying to be an astronaut, and I don't even care how challenging that is. I just, in my mind, I feel like, oh, if I want to be a doctor, then I can go to med school tomorrow, or you know, and you never know what you can or cannot do. You never, unless you stretch yourself and challenge yourself and stop doubting yourself, you never know what ground you can break or who you can inspire or what dreams could really come true in your life unless you give it a shot. I never looked at a plane in the sky and even thought that I was capable of doing that. Never, not once. But I stepped in the aircraft and I gave it a shot, and it's been amazing. I've been flying almost, 8 or 9 years now, and it's been awesome, and I've been able to do a lot of cool rescues. So I really think it starts with the person in the mirror and really, encouraging ourselves and having faith and trusting ourselves, not being afraid to fail or to fall on your face. So what? Who cares? It's your life, That's why there's a reverse thing in our car. If we're going in the wrong direction, you can turn it around and try another direction and another direction. And I think that's the beauty and the excitement in life, that we get to explore these different options.
Absolutely. And before we go here, I want to thank you for your service. Really, you are not only a good role model for young women and older women, but men and everybody. I mean, honestly, Lashanda, you have done it. You've done it for our country, you've done it as a role model, and you're going to continue to go on and do good things. And you have a family here with our show, so we definitely want to have you back another time. And thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, too. And we'll be right back after this break. Thank you, Lashanda. Take care.
Hey, Dad.
Yeah?
You remember that ball game we went to a couple years ago?
Sure.
And how you didn't have enough cash for 2 hot dogs, so you walked with me on your shoulders until we found an ATM? And then when we got back to our seats, we never saw the hot dog guy again.
Well, I don't remember all that.
Yeah, that was an awesome game.
You never know which moments will be the ones they'll remember forever, so take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 1-877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Medical mistakes claim tens of thousands of lives every year. The healthcare community is working on it, but you can help. When you communicate with your doctor, when you ask more questions, you reduce your risk of suffering a medical mistake. Doctors can't answer if you don't ask. Help reduce your risk. Questions are the answer. Learn the 10 questions you must ask. Visit www.ahrq.gov. This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, and the Ad Council.
I'm getting a catcher's mitt.
I'm getting ice skates. I'm getting a devastating flood.
Adults are generous. We're even giving kids global warming, but we can still reduce greenhouse gas pollution. Go to fightglobalwarming.com. Brought to you by Environmental Defense, the Robertson Foundation, and the Ad Council.
There are many sounds in your daily life. Ones that make you smile. Ones that help you relax. And there are some sounds that can help save lives. Wireless emergency alerts, now on many mobile devices, use a unique sound and vibration to bring you critical information about emergencies in your area. With updates from local sources you know and trust, you can be in the know wherever you are. Learn more at ready.gov/alerts. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
This is President Barack Obama. In the story of America, the greatest chapters are moments of challenge, when we see people serving their country and one another. Volunteers who step forward into hospital corridors and church basements, along levees and fire lines. And the next chapter is yours to help write. Sign up to volunteer at usaservice.org. That's usaservice.org. Let's renew America together.
A message from Renew America Together, brought to you by the Ad Council.
To live full out means to embrace life in a big way. And to do that, you have to be able to manage the stresses in your life. And to do that, it's about knowing that those stresses, those challenges, those hurdles of life, they don't control you. You have the power to put them aside. You have the power to handle them, to manage them, and to thrive in your life.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a certified life coach, Nancy can help you to overcome challenges and start living full out. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Hello, everyone. We're back at the Living Full Out show, and what an amazing show. Honestly, the callers that call in and how vulnerable everybody is with just wanting to step forward in their life, wanting more out of their life, and wanting to manage those stresses so that they can thrive in a big way. That's what life is about. I want to thank Lashanda-Holmes. Wow, that interview in the last segment, if you didn't catch it, go back and listen, because she served as such a great example for how life can give you really big curveballs. Life can be unfair. Life can just push you down, put you in the trenches and tell you you're going to stay there. But the voice in your head, the fire in your belly, the love in your heart that you have for yourself, for your dreams, you can light that up when you want to. You have that ability, and you can get yourself out of the trenches. You can get yourself out of pain. It just starts with you. Always remember that the circumstances in your life, the worries, the stresses, the pain, the loss, they're there. They're not going to go anywhere. They're part of it. But the journey, the adventure of life is that we are able to pull ourselves up. We are able to ride the ride, for better, for worse. And trust me, I've been there myself. You know, as my community knows, I'm legally blind, and I was just talking to someone yesterday who is fully sighted, and she was really trying to understand the depths of my life and what I go through. And I was trying to explain to her, I'm like, well, let me tell you, it's very interesting because every day is different. Every day I see less. Just when I got it figured out, just when I can finagle something and get it set to a certain knob or figure out how to operate a certain piece of equipment, my vision will take another jump, and it gets worse. Every day, every year, every month, it just gets a little worse. Now, what I've learned and how I've handled my stress is that I look at that and I say, this is just, it's devastating. I don't even have the words to explain what losing your vision is like. However, I do have the ability, and I've learned over the years in managing that stress, that I find ways to cope. I look at the good in life. I think to myself, well, I'm losing my vision, but I still have my love for music. I still have an amazing family. I still have the ability to walk and run, and I can hear people say, I love you. I can listen to music. And I'm telling you, when you can look at the good in your life and not focus on the bad, that's when you're able to manage that stress in your own way. You know, people will go out there and they'll find quick fixes for stress, maybe a pill, maybe alcohol, maybe, you know, different vices, food, but those are just Band-Aids. But when you're able to really look at the crisis, really look at the problem and find a solution, that's when you're able to manage that stress in your own way. And again, Lashanda-Holmes, our last guest, she talked about that moment when she was crying. Who hasn't cried? Who hasn't felt hopeless? Who hasn't felt like, where is this going? What's becoming in my life? We've all had those moments. But we all have the ability to say, I want more. And to do that, to want more, means to envision your life. What do you want? I will go sometimes to the spa. I do love the spa. And yes, spas are not cheap, so I'm not saying that everybody can just go to a spa. For you, it might be a park. It might be just a library, somewhere quiet. But you want to go somewhere where you can dream, somewhere where you can close your eyes and you can envision who you are on the inside, who you want to be. You know, Lashanda did that. I've done that. So many others that I know who have been through pain and trials of various challenges and tragedies in their life have done that same process. They've done that same exercise. And so I really want everybody today to do that. Well, maybe it won't be right after the show. Maybe it'll be tonight when you're alone in your home. But I want you to try that. I want you to be in a quiet place or listen to very light music. And I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to, first of all, think of all the things that are cluttering your head, all the finals, all the relationship worries, all the financial worries. I want you to acknowledge them in your head, but then I want you to tell them to go away. Go away. You're a fear. You're false evidence appearing real. You're not real. You're real now, but you're not my reality forever. And I want you to tell them to go away. And then I want you to quickly find a way to get out of your head and tap into your heart. Now, for some people, I get a lot of coaching clients who say, Nancy, I can't even feel my heart anymore. I can't even feel passion. I can't feel desire. I just don't feel it. I feel like I'm a shell. I feel like I'm running through the days, but I'm running on empty. If you fall into that group, now you really need this exercise more than anyone. I want you to sit with yourself, and I want you to feel the blood running through your body. I want you to feel even your heart beating if you can, even the breath of your body if you can. And I want you to think of something positive. I believe that our mind is very powerful. We have the ability to put positive things to our mind just as much as negative. When I think of positive things, I think about, really good dates I've been on over the years, ones that make me laugh because maybe something funny happened. I think about times when I was a young girl hanging out with my parents when they were when they were together before they got divorced, and the happy times we had then. I think about, various career achievements I've had and just how I've almost turned around and said, oh my God, you did that. And I want you to think about in your life, what are those positive moments for you? And when you can bring those positive thoughts into your heart, into your mind, the stresses will start to go away. So try that exercise today. I know it sounds crazy, and it should take you about an hour. So don't rush it. To really feel yourself, to really take yourself to that place of depth, it's going to take time. We are going to go to the line now. We have another caller. Welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you doing?
Okay.
Good. So what's going on today?
Yes, I was calling because, it's a new year. I haven't really made any solid resolutions yet. But, as we were closing out the old year, I realized, I'm going to be 40. And I was wondering, what things should I, are there any specific goals or plans or resolutions I should make in order to prepare to be turning the big 40?
That's a really good question. And I'm wondering something for you. What do you think happens when you turn 40? When you turn 40 in one day, do you think you'll feel different?
Yes.
Really? How will you feel?
Old.
You will feel old. Okay. And this is actually a really good question that I'm asking you, because to some people 40 is old. You know, we grow up in our life and we see parents and people who are 40 and they're like, oh, that's old. You know, for some people old might be 60, might be 90. And so for you, 40 feels old. Are you happy with the condition of yourself physically?
It's okay, but there's room for improvement.
Okay. What would you want to improve?
I could probably stand to lose about, 8-10 pounds. Actually, start working out. I hate working out. I'm like allergic to working out.
We all hate working out. But you know what? 8 to 10 pounds is doable, right? That's not 100 pounds. And
True.
when you think about love in your life, and I'm not saying romantic love, when you're just saying like friendships or relationships in your life, is there something you'd like to do there? Can you think of anybody that you'd like to reconnect with?
Not really reconnect, just reassess, the people that I do have in my life and diversify.
So some people you might need to let go, and then in some ways you might need to meet new friends?
Yes.
Okay. So far we know you want to lose 8 to 10 pounds. We know you want to meet some new friends and maybe evaluate which ones you want to let go of. And then for yourself, is there a hobby that you've put off for a while that you'd like to actually say, you know what, I'm going to do it and stop talking about doing it?
Yes.
What is that?
There's probably several of them, but probably the biggest one is golfing.
Golfing. Awesome. And do you think that you can take a golf class and maybe just even go to the driving range and hit some balls and start that hobby?
Yeah, I've actually, over the years, I've attempted to take a class and, work intervened, so I had to quit like after the first or second day.
Mm-hmm.
So I never got to complete them. So maybe this year I could actually complete one and get out there and actually spend more time on the range.
So here's what Here's what I know about you in the short time we've had together. You're going to be losing 8 to 10 pounds. You're going to be meeting new friends. You're going to be maybe letting some relationships go that aren't supportive to you. You're going to further learning golf and other hobbies that we haven't got to. This process is what you want to start thinking about as you move into your 40s. And the thing is think about 40. Really think about that. You're not 50. You're not halfway there yet. You're still under halfway. So don't allow yourself to feel too old, because you're not.
Yeah, it's just...
And so here's what I want you to do. Also, listen to how you talk to yourself. That's my last advice to you, because we want to take out the maybes in our life. Maybe I'll do this. I might try. I hope. Take out words that are negative, that don't support you, and fill it up with positive. I'm worth it. I'm going to. I will. And all those things that you want to do, they will happen. Okay? Thank you so much, though, for calling in, and keep us updated on how things go.
I definitely will. Thank you so much, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, you too. And thank you to everybody who called in today. We've had a wonderful show. And we'll be back next week with a great show, another inspirational guest. I want to thank my entire Living Full Out family here that puts this show together. And most of all, here's to you living your life full out, stress-free. Okay, I know it can't be stress-free. I'm kind of chuckling at that one inside myself. But honestly, smile. Enjoy life. Call somebody today that fills you up inside. Get out there, eat right, work out, just treat yourself good. And the biggest thing is life is a journey, and all we're shooting for is to experience all that life has to offer and to really be the best version that we can be. Wishing all of you a great day, and we'll see you next week. Take care.